Welcome to the newest member of the fullBOOST family. I've owned a lot of Japanese cars in my time, but somehow I've never owned a Toyota. Considering I love Japanese cars from the 90s, that's kind of crazy to say that, but yeah. I've owned everything else, but not a Toyota. And this one is a ripper. I've always loved these cars, but to be honest, I don't know a great deal about them. And like a lot of people, during COVID, we live in Melbourne, Australia. We had one of the worst lockdowns in the world, to be honest. We were sort of locked down for about 4 months. As you do, everyone's looking at car prices on the internet. I thought maybe it's time to buy one of these. But COVID, like everything, wasn't friendly to these cars. So my initial thought, like everything, I'll buy a cheap one and hot it up. Because, you know, if you tell anyone that you bought an MR2, what's the first question? Bro, when are you K-swapping it? Because there's no other reason to buy one of these cars but to put a 1,000 horsepower K-swapped engine in it. Which is funny because if you switch a motor in an RX-7, what do they cry? Purity!
Yeah, where's the purity with a K-swap? K-swap, K-swap, K-swap.
No, but like you're changing it, you're wrecking the car, yet if you put a massive horsepower engine, this is a sports car, it's designed to go around corners. Yet most people who build them, I understand why they build them, it's a cracker setup, it's a fast straight line car, but to be perfectly honest, I've only owned the car about a month now, but the more I drive it, the more I like it. So getting back to why I ended up with this one, I was going to buy a cheap one. I started driving these cheap ones, which weren't really cheap. They were a fair bit of money and they were rubbish. Not necessarily like they drove bad, but like they needed paint, they had nothing. And these were mainly Australian delivered cars. So Australia they all had the Targa top. This is a hardtop GDS model. This is factory turbo, 3S turbo engine. The Australian ones were all naturally aspirated, but that wasn't even the part that turned me off. Most of the ones I looked at didn't even have air conditioning. Now you might laugh at that, but Australian summers are hot. In a little two-seater car, there's not much cabin space. It gets pretty hot, yeah. And I'm getting old, I'm not a young bloke. So this car has power steering and air conditioning. But the reason I saw this car, I bought this sight unseen. I sent you the link and said, what do you think of this MR2? And you said, what did you say to me?
I said, ring the bloke now, stop screwing around and just call him. And I said, that car will be sold tomorrow. If you don't pounce on it, I go, you have to make a decision straight away when the car's this clean.
I took your advice, rang the guy up and said, what's your bank account details? Let's make this happen. I paid at the upper end of the market for this, but to be perfectly honest, the lower end of the market is where they're overpriced.
Yeah, I reckon for sure. There's NA models going for more than what this was asking for.
Yeah, I've seen some NA models recently since I've bought this going for, and look, they're sold. I don't know what they paid for them, but they're paying a fair bit more than what I paid for this, which I think's staggering. I picked this up in New South Wales. Apparently, it had never been on a wet road since it's been restored, and I drove it home in Sydney. Had like a 2-week period of just absolute torrential rain, and I drove it home in that. Like, terrible. I worked out it was doing like 10.5 litres on the highway for 100 kilometres. It's not that great in a lightweight 4-cylinder, is it? Everyone has commented on the colour, like you said, Jordo. This is not a factory colour. This is Porsche. It's the Porsche, I think it's Agate, or is that how you pronounce it?
It's very similar to the Megane I just let go of.
Yeah, so it's an OE colour. It's the Porsche. You see it a lot on 911s and those sorts of cars. But I think it's a great car. The original, you got Advan wheels. These are a 17, 245 on the back, 215 on the front. But yeah, it's in really good condition. Underneath it, everything's been replaced. You know, it's got all poly bushes, all the tie rod ends, everything's been done. It's got BC coilovers in it. Power-wise, it's fairly standard. It's got an intercooler on it and an exhaust, a Burke exhaust. But
I think the feature, though, of why you bought it was look at the body on it.
Yes, the main reason I bought it was because it's in very, very good condition, and which is a massive credit. Got to give full credit to the previous owner. He's the one who did all this, and he built a very, very nice little car. It's only on, seriously, it's on like 11 pounds of boost. To be perfectly honest, this is, at the moment, this is the slowest car I own. Which I'm perfectly fine with. Yeah, but it's not that bad. If you've driven an Australian delivered MR2, the non-turbo ones, well, this is a friggin' jet. What I like about it, just the way it is, the car's lightweight, yeah? So like, you don't need, it doesn't feel heavy, and it drives okay down low, considering it's only got the 5-speed gearbox. It doesn't feel, you know, like it's got no torque. I tell you what, it is a bit different hearing boost behind your head instead of coming from that way. No, it is, isn't it? And you know, one thing I thought in a way it's a little bit bad, but good and bad. If you, I don't know, if you've got a bit of an oil leak back there, you're not really going to smell it, are you?
No.
So you sort of want to be getting under there checking it. Saying that, it's a Toyota, right? So you're not usually that stressed about reliability issues. Hey, that's one thing that is cool, because obviously these are mid-mounted engine. Unlike a Mustang, you know when you sit in it and it's like you're in a speedboat and you've got about 6 kilometers of bonnet?
Yes.
And it just feels like you're driving in the back seat. This is unreal because you've got nothing in the front. When you drive it, you can't even see the bonnet. Do you know what I mean?
And the bonnet drops off fast.
It drops off really fast. Even though you're sitting low in the car, there's nothing sort of in the way. Just the 3S motor. A lot of people ask what this twin entry means. It just means it's like a split pulse exhaust housing. But yeah, it's all fairly standard. I know it's got a rebuilt CT26 factory turbo. It's got an aftermarket intercooler kit. That's really it, and an exhaust. And it's running about 11 pounds of boost. For a small car, they've actually got a decent sized boot. Like today, we're doing a photo shoot, obviously. I can get all my gear in here, no problem. You see a lot of people, you know, they do these K-swaps or hot them up, and they've got fuel refineries in the back. They've got intercoolers. I'll tell you one thing, and you can take this to the bank. I will not be putting anything in here. So I'll be using this car. I'll go to events. I'll go to, you know,
just insert neck minute meme.
Neck minute.
Tune in next time when we drop into G-Force Race Solutions for a close-up inspection and engine health check on the MR2.
These seats aren't actually leather. These are car seat covers.
They from Kmart.
No, they're pretty nice, aren't they?